Did you know that getting recognition for your amazing book could be a way to help you continue to market your book? I don't know about you, but getting an award always excites me. Getting an award as an author, well, you may have to scrape me up off the floor because I'd be a puddle when that happens. The truth is that awards are often overlooked as an opportunity to help spread the word about you, your book, and your message. In this episode, I am joined by one of my favorite humans out there, Boni Wagne Stafford, who has a publishing gift that she shares with authors she works with. And today she's sharing that gift with us as we talk about awards and how they offer marketing opportunities for authors too. In this season of the Empowered Author Podcast, I'm uncovering some unique and effective book marketing ideas that you can implement now. I can't wait to share some of my favorites with you. Let's dive in. Hey, I'm Stephanie Feger, and Empower is my middle name. Well, not really, but it should be. I believe that empowered people empower people, and I'm obsessed with empowering you, the nonfiction author, with impactful marketing strategies and tactics to help you take your important message and share it with those who desperately need it and want it and will buy it. As the owner and chief strategist of the Empower PR Group and the author of several books myself, I have merged my love for reading books and writing books and marketing books to help nonfiction authors with laser-focused strategies and tactics to write books that sell, promote books to those who need and want them most, and build meaningful businesses from empowering messages. Think of this as your one-stop shop for marketing insights from an author who has been there, who has done that, and understands exactly where you are. All right, so get your pens ready because I'm ready to empower you. This is the Empowered Author Podcast. Boni, I've been trying to get you on this podcast for a while now, haven't I?
I'm a little embarrassed at how long it's taken us to get this together.
Oh my gosh, I'm so excited that you are here today. And I actually, before I introduce you, I feel like I have to share how we found each other because I think that is just so pivotal to our story. I'll never forget. I got a message from you. I found out later you messaged me in a couple of different ways, but I think I only got it on LinkedIn at first that said, "Hey, you have a really cool podcast name because guess what? I have a similar podcast name, if not really daggone close that you do." And it was a door opener for Boni and I to meet. Boni is an amazing publisher based out of Canada. And Boni, I'm curious, not only the evolution of the fact that we both have the same podcast names and how we found each other, but I'm really curious about how your publishing journey. I would love for you to give people just a quick high level, because even though you're based out of Canada, you don't live there.
No, we don't live there. We are Canadian. It's a Canadian company, but my husband and I, who are business partners, we actually live in Mexico, and we work with authors all over the world. And of course, the book sales market is all over the world. So that doesn't really matter. But it was almost 7 years ago at the time of this recording when we were kind of looking for something different, and we didn't want to be part of the urban rat race. And we were spending a crazy amount of time in the car on commutes. Like, we did the math one day, and it was the equivalent of 8 weeks a year of awake time.
Okay, so hold on. So Canada has bad traffic too, huh?
Well, yeah, exactly. And we were living in Toronto, so biggest city in Canada, and we lived a little ways out of city center, and both of us at the time were working in city center. But it was just like, oh my goodness, I do not have 8 weeks a year to give to my commute. So it was a couple of years until we left Canada, but that was what triggered us to do something different and go somewhere different. And we came to Mexico and bought a sailboat. We actually lived full time aboard our sailboat for 3 years when we first got down here, working the whole time. And it was kind of nice because I have a background in journalism and then government corporate communications, and have always been working with long form written content. And so, I was ghostwriting for clients, and then we started to do self-publishing services and just evolved into here we are today, a hybrid publisher of award-winning nonfiction.
Yes, and I love your publishing name, Ingenium Books. Like, tell everybody what Ingenium means.
It's tied into the whole
It
thing.
is.
So ingenium is Latin for creative thinking, creative mind, that sort of thing. And when we left Canada and bought our sailboat, we were looking for the perfect name for our sailboat. One of the things we wanted to give ourselves room for when we were creating this new life was, my husband and I are both creative in different ways, but we wanted to have space in our lives to allow our creative parts to
Mm-hmm.
come to life in a little better way. And so when we were looking for the name for the sailboat, we stumbled across this ingenium, Latin for creative mind, creative thinking. We named the sailboat. And then it was like, when we were incorporating our company, it's like, oh, ingenium books.
It's
Gotta be.
perfect.
So it just, so our boats, yeah, our boat's name is the same name as our publishing company.
It's beautiful. And I have to say, I feel like I live vicariously through you many days here in Kentucky. I'm like, Bonnie, what's the weather down there? Or I see beautiful photos of you in the middle of the ocean. And I think if I wasn't someone who is so apt to have motion sickness, I would be down in a flash to be a part of it. But, I love a couple things that you've said. I love how you and your husband took control of your life. And I think books give people the power to do that. I know lots of authors who have embraced kind of this
Absolutely.
shift, right? Well, and there's another author you and I've had the chance to work with together who actually lived on a sailboat and still does for, quite a long time, right?
That's right. And she raised 5 kids on her sailboat.
Listen, I love her. And if she's listening, I totally love you. However, I have 3 kids and I think I'm crazy. I can't imagine having 5 and being on a sailboat.
Yeah, that's right.
I love it. But
it's amazing.
I also think, how we met. So I didn't know any of this about Bonnie until we got on this phone call chatting about the fact that we both have pretty daggone similar podcast names. And I'm so glad we did. I feel like the universe does things for a reason.
I agree. It was pretty funny.
It was funny. It was so funny.
Well, it was, and the context, the context from my side of it too is you're being very kind to my messages, and I was, I wasn't really upset, but I was like, who is this woman who named her podcast the same as me? And oh my goodness, we have to fix this. And then, having the conversation with you, and I'm like, oh my goodness, I'm in love with Stephanie. We just had so many things in common, and so many of the same ways of looking at the world, and it was like, oh, okay, I think we're going to be just fine.
I know. It was like you were a best friend I was always supposed to have, but it took the fact that we had the same podcast to bring us together. Yeah, if a day goes by and we aren't on the phone, or if we haven't emailed, something's weird. You usually email me, "Are you okay, Stephanie? I haven't heard from you today."
That's right. Yeah, what's happening?
Where
did
happening?
you go?
Our love for books, our love for cats, our love for helping people has really blended it all, but also our love for helping make an impact. And I think that's where marketing comes in. And what I found interesting when we had that initial chat, Bonnie, is both of our podcasts are about marketing. And yet, when we stood back and talked about them, the message of what we brought to the table were very different. And we realized right then and there that your perspective of marketing as a publisher and my perspective of marketing as a book marketing strategist and coach and all the other things were a little different.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and our podcast too, we talk about marketing, but we talk about other things related to an author's publishing journey too. So we're the marketer in you would advise me to narrow niche down. And I'm like, no, I do what every author that I've worked with wants to do. It was like, no, I want to back up. I want to, be more broad. Yeah, I know it's not the wisest thing to do, but
it's okay. I always tell people too,
if
you have to love what you're doing. And if you niche too much and then you don't have fun with it anymore, then you won't do it. So, hey, you know me, I'll pick and choose battles. Yeah. I'm not gonna slap your hand right now.
Exactly.
No.
Excellent.
You're welcome. But there was something that there are a lot of things I've loved, and you and I have been working together closely now for several months on really cool projects. But one of the things that I really wanted to pull from your knowledge base today and share with those listening to the podcast who are interested in unique book marketing ideas was something, I'll be honest, I never even considered with my authors that I'd worked with, mainly because I would consider a lot of it to be a pay for play or a paid option. And I realize sometimes it's worth making investments if they're the right investments. Sometimes there isn't an investment, even though you think there is, and everything that comes with it. So, from the publisher's perspective, Boni, today I want to talk about awards. And I want to talk about awards as a tool to help with promotion, both before the book comes out, in alignment when the book comes out, and afterward. So I would love your high-level thoughts on applying for awards and kind of why, because I think this is something that's really baked into your process with your authors, is evaluating awards, seeing if it makes sense to apply for them. Talk to me a little bit about why, because whether they're publishing with you or someone else, applying for awards is something that any author could consider.
Exactly. There's so many ways I can start talking about this, but let me first say that not all awards programs are created equal.
Yes.
And so it's not just any old award. What we do at Ingenium Books is our criteria for before we will consider submitting any of our authors' books to an awards program is the very first thing is it has to be juried. So it's not just pay your fee, get on the list, everybody that enters before the date gets, and there are plenty of those awards programs.
Yep.
So that's the one thing that I would say is it's important that it is a juried process, meaning that there is usually a team of people that is going through and assessing the books. Now, wouldn't it be nice if we could say, oh, sure, just pay your fee and you could win a Pulitzer? Well, no, this is not what, there's a whole range of different kinds and levels of awards programs.
Yep.
But the exercise is important on a couple of different levels. And what you and I are talking about here today is giving another promotions opportunity, but there's something that we've experienced that's even more important than that. And that is the shot in the arm that it gives the author. Mm-hmm. Whether it's a third place or a second place or good heavens, winning in a category, it is a really tough slog to write and publish a book, regardless of how you are publishing, like
Agreed.
Whether you're self-publishing or working with a hybrid publisher or a traditional publisher, it is a lot of work.
It is.
And many times authors are exhausted and it's like, oh my goodness, I don't want another thing. And then, self-doubt creeps in. It's not that good anyway, or nobody's going to like it, or I hate talking about my book. I don't want to push myself on anyone. Mm-hmm. And having a credible third party say, look, this is pretty good. Mm-hmm. Here's your award sticker. It's a huge boost. So I almost like that notion better than the fact that it gives you another promotion opportunity, but it certainly does the latter.
We need it. I mean, I remember at the end of my publishing journey with my first book, I told my publisher, if I have to look at this, read this, anything with this book again, I'm going to go insane. And so getting like another kind of boost of energy to know that it was worth it. That you're right. Actually, I think that right there is enough of a cherry on top of the process.
Yeah. And it's kind of like social proof on steroids. You take from a reader review to an endorsement review to an awards finalist or winning. It's kind of in the same vein where somebody else who actually knows something has said that this book is worth paying attention to.
That's awesome. And I like how you mentioned the juried process, because you're right. There are some out there that are pay for play. And I think that's why I have always been so timid around the process, because I come from a background of nonprofit marketing. That I always tell authors what that means is I look at how far can $1 go? So I'm usually not going to recommend, investing financially in something when we don't know for sure if it's going to happen, or is it really worth it? And then, and you come from a journalism background, I know that there's like a separation of church and state. There's a separation of editorial and advertising. And that has always been ingrained in my mind too, that if you're paying for something, how credible is it? But I also know, and what you share is, if you have that caveat that if it's a juried option or a juried experience, that that it's going to be a credible, or at least a more credible award experience.
Yeah, and the way I think about it too is that, for better or for worse, we do live in a society driven by capitalism, and it is not free or cheap or easy to run
Mm-mm.
an awards program. So there are costs that have to be covered. I mean, there's a range of different. Usually, an awards program will have an entry fee, and then often there will be another fee per category that you want to enter the book in. And for the most part, I don't begrudge paying that fee
Right.
as long as it's a juried awards program. And there are a couple of other things that I think are important and may not be substantively important, but what does the website look like?
Oh my gosh. Yes.
What do the other winners look like?
Yep.
What do the books look like? Do the previous winners? What are the stickers? What does all that look like? It's not that you can say, oh, their website is, I don't like the design of their website, therefore the awards program is not good, but almost. And you really do want to think about, where do you want to see, in our case, where do we want to see our authors' books
Mm-hmm.
featured on awards programs, or for authors who are doing it themselves? Can they, are they going to be proud to have their book associated with that website? So there's, those little things that you can check. But you're right, there is some investment. I do think for the right awards program, I think it can be worth it when you get that win, because now here's what you can do with it.
Exactly.
And there's a million things you can do with it, but you can create new social graphics with the new cover of your book with the sticker on it. Most of the awards programs will give their finalists and their winners some sort of digital or actual peel and stick, if you have physical books, stickers, so that you get to shout to the world. You can issue a media release. You can do a whole social media campaign. You can connect with other winners of that awards program, cross promote, and say congratulations to so and so who is also a winner, or spread the love and spread the joy. And you can work it into speeches. You can, all kinds of things you can do with that. And then just revel in the fact that people who spend time and energy in the book space have said that your book is worth paying attention to.
That right there has so much value, because on top of what you mentioned, there's something about getting the award as the author. It makes you feel good. It gives you that boost of confidence. But after the book comes out, which is when I see a lot of people applying for awards, sometimes you can apply before too. And I'd love to talk to your thoughts on both of those. But after the book comes out, there's this big splash. Maybe you've pulled together a launch team. Maybe you have leveraged your connections. Maybe you've, done some really great things. But it's hard to maintain momentum and finding things to continuously bring your book in front of people, to continue to make it relevant. So when you become an award nominee or you get the award, that gives you an opportunity to continue to talk about it.
This is exactly right.
Yep.
We have an example, and thank you for raising this, because of course, at publish time or close to publish time is a great time to submit the book for awards. You need to check. Some awards programs will stipulate what the copyright year is or needs to be in order to be eligible. In fact, they all will tell you. Some of these programs will allow any copyright year. We had an author recently, her book published a couple of years ago, and she was getting pretty exhausted with, pulling her hair out. What on earth can I do now? I want to keep this book alive. And so we looked around for some awards programs for her, and we found a couple. It was 2 years after publish date, and we submitted, and she won runner-up in the Canadian Book Club Awards of 2021, and she won in another couple of categories in another awards program. What a shot in the arm for her.
That's amazing.
Yeah, and what it enabled her to do is actually she then took the information about the award with copies of her book and her sell sheet, and she went around to local bookstores, local libraries. It's 2 years after publish. Her book is now in the local libraries, and it wasn't before. And it was that award that kind of kicked all of that off. She also went, her book is a business book about, leadership for the middle manager. It's called In the Thick of It, Mastering the Art of Leading from the Middle. But with those award designations, she also went to her local community colleges for the business programs and spoke to the people teaching the courses and said, hey, would you consider using my book in your classroom? So it was really,
That's
and you don't
amazing.
think about
No,
those
that's
things. I
amazing.
mean, yeah,
That's amazing.
yeah, it was really good, and really it was. I'm not sure I can think of a better outcome. Helped her feel good, gave her some renewed energy, helped other people say, "Oh yeah, that book is worth bringing into my store, my library, my classroom."
Well, what you've highlighted a couple of things that I think are important for authors to sit on for a minute when they think about what an award can do for them. I think number one, it is a credibility boost, right? So like we've already talked about, personally, you feel good about it, but it also tells the world that, hey, this is a book worthy of looking at. And in a time when anybody can publish at any time, we don't always know the quality. This is a
Yeah,
good indicator of quality.
yeah, exactly.
I also think that it becomes a great tool for visibility, whether it's before the published date comes out and it's something you can put on the book cover, awesome. Afterwards, that it allows for that. I love how you shared, it opens doors for you to talk to others in the that received the award or in the different categories. That's brilliant. I love that. I think it gives you opportunity for momentum, whether it is to continue to build momentum or rebuild it, like you just shared with that particular author. And it can become a door opener. I talk a lot about libraries and bookstores, and there is no cookie cutter approach to get into them. Like that is a unique journey to go down to get into those. But I definitely think that libraries and bookstores are more receptive when they see something that validates your book. I love that. Or even the door opener into a university. I mean, Bonnie, that's amazing.
Yeah, no, it's pretty impressive and pretty cool. And I have frequently heard, both from our authors and from others, that there is a fatigue point in always saying, "Hey, look at my book. Hey, have you seen my book? Hey, would you buy my book?" And being able to turn that around and still aim to get some visibility, but now you can say, hey, look what so and so says about my book.
Mm-hmm.
And it's, beyond a review, because this is reviews in and of themselves are subjective. And so it's easy for us to say, oh, yeah, but, either what did they really think, or
Right.
their opinion is different than mine. Maybe they liked it, but it's horrible anyway. What do they know? There's that kind of thing. But with a juried award designation, it's hard to argue with that.
It is hard to argue with that. You're right. Authors get tired of constantly being on the push. I have a lot of authors who come to me and the book's been out a couple of years and they think, well, I guess I need to write another book, move on. And I always tell them,
And you
you
do.
do,
I'm always going to advocate
right? Absolutely.
if you have the burning desire to share the message.
The best way to sell a book is to write another one. I am a believer in that. But I also believe that books don't have to have a shelf life. Like you can pick it up and continue to spread the word. You can make it relevant. I don't want anybody to ever feel like, well, man, I missed the launch of my book and I can't bring it back to life. Your story's proof you can. You can. And who knows, today it might be more relevant than it was in the past. I'm curious, Bonnie, I don't know if you'd be willing to share this, but I'm curious if you would. Are there like a handful of awards that you think are wonderful? Like if you are applying for your book for, Bonnie, a nonfiction author or whatever, what would be a couple that you think are good ones that you get excited about when your authors get?
Well, I get excited about any award our
Of
authors
course
get,
you do.
as long as they're juried. But there are a gazillion.
Mhm.
It really does depend on the book and the author and the goals.
Yep.
There are awards programs specifically for nonfiction, the Nonfiction Book Awards, for example. There are other awards programs that run the gamut So I'm not sure. I mean, other than here's one, and we've entered a few times, and it's the competition is very stiff. And one day, darn it, one of our books is going to win. But it's the Ben Franklin Awards from the
Oh,
Independent Book Publishers Association.
nice.
So I really like theirs. They've got a good awards program. The competition is stiff. They're not cheap. They are among theirs is among the pricier entry fee that we see in the space that we look in. They are a good one, and I would say that finalists or award winners in IBPA's Ben Franklin Awards can holler from the rooftops. Not that you shouldn't holler from the rooftops anyway, but there's so many. It's really difficult to say, "Oh, this one should be the one you should go after," and this one you shouldn't. But you know what I always do? I go to the finalist list when the Ben Franklin ones come out, and I look for who's publishing, which are the who are the publishers on these books, and then I go and I look and what is that publisher doing, and what are
Mm.
they? Oh, and what can I look for ideas on what these other publish are they hybrid? Is it a self-published author? Is it so? That's what I always do.
Well, I love that. And I think that that research that you're doing is only helping your future authors because you're learning and you're figuring out what they're picking up on. I also love how we started this talking about how your podcast isn't niched enough and you think I would yell at you. Not really, but kind of. You just pushed it back at me, Bonnie. You're the answer. You're right. I mean, finding the right award is like identifying your niche. I have an author I work with who is in the Christian space. Well, of course, there's specific Christian awards that he will want to look at. So I guess here's a couple
Yeah.
questions. Ask yourself, why do I want to apply for an award? What does the award mean to me?
Yes.
What type of award would differentiate me from someone else or elevate me in my space? Who would be interested in learning about this award, right? Like understanding that would help you identify the right ones. But I think the moral of the story, Bonnie, is getting an award in and of itself is a major achievement.
Yeah, and there's just one other example that I just as you were talking about this and I need to there's always a caveat. So there was another example from one of our books and one of our authors. We had talked about it's the picture wall, one woman's journey of being his no, her no, their mother. And I have believed in the value of that story as being applicable for a screen treatment.
Mm.
I mean, we started working with this author years ago. And so what we did with her when we were looking for awards, it's like, okay, are there awards programs that might get us closer to that space of picking up some attention from some people who might get us closer to a screen treatment and a potential, turning it onto the screen. And so even though I didn't like the website, we did submit to the Hollywood Book Awards. It's a terrible website. It's like, oh, come on, you guys, seriously. Anyway, and then the pandemic, of course, hit. But the Hollywood Book Awards has normally not outside pandemic times. They have an award ceremony that's in Hollywood, and so we were all excited about that. Well, wouldn't that be cool? And you go to the award ceremony, and it's in Hollywood, and you've got they specifically, according to their website, they judge the entries based on applicability for possible translation to screen. So we submitted the picture wall and we got an honorable mention in a couple of
That's
different categories.
amazing.
Yeah, that was pretty exciting. And then so we are in the middle of creating the screen treatment for the picture wall. Who knows where that'll go? That's a long journey, but we've been working with a screenwriter and
Oh
we've
my
got designers
gosh.
working on our pitch deck and coming to a screen near you, the picture wall one day, we
That
hope.
is amazing. Oh, I'm so glad that you shared that story because I didn't even know they had. I wouldn't even have known that, Bonnie. But this is what I love about your strategic mind. You're like, what's my end goal? How will this help me get there? And I'm going to find the research. I'm going to research and figure it out. And you did, and you found one, and it
Yeah,
worked.
and just because well, exactly. And so have we done that before? No. When has that ever stopped me? Did I ever move on to a sailboat and live full time? No. Was I going to let that stop me?
No.
No. So,
Well, and that is good fodder and inspiration for authors listening today. If you walk away anything from this, you should walk away that number one, being a podcast guest or knowing someone else in the podcast could be the door opener to something massive, I think, or something meaningful. And I think that's our beautiful relationship. I think number two, it's that applying for awards and receiving them are as much of an importance for the author as it is for being a door opener, visibility, kind of credibility tool for someone else. And the third, I just love what you shared, is just because you haven't done it doesn't mean you can't try and figure it out and give it a shot, because there's a first time for everything. And anyways, I just love that inspiration, Boni. Of course, I can't think of a better way to wrap up our chat on awards. This is wonderful. Thank you so much for being so open with myself and with our listeners today, and understanding how awards can be a really unique marketing approach. I hope this is the first of many times that you will be on our podcast. Will you come back?
Well, thank you. Yes, absolutely. I will happily come back.
Wonderful.
And you're a winner.
Oh, thank you, Boni. Thank you so much. When I think about awards, I giggle because I remember a moment when my oldest was playing soccer. He couldn't have been more than 3 or 4, and at the end of his soccer league, he got an award for his participation. He was so excited about it until he actually got it, because the award wasn't a specific color. I think it was supposed to be yellow in his mind, because he had been watching Curious George and expected he would get a trophy that looked just like his favorite monkeys. When he didn't get what he wanted, he threw a fit, and my dad, helping me out, took him to Chick-fil-A to get a lemonade because it's yellow and maybe we could call that a trophy. Except, a side note, I believe I remember that it wasn't as yellow as Eli wanted it to be. Anyways, I'll laugh nowadays because I'd be pumped to get any award. Like, I would love a participation award or Mom of the Year award, or I don't know, an awesome award to acknowledge my hard work as an author. Awards feel good personally, but they are also fodder for conversation about your book without it feeling like you are talking all about it all the time. You don't have to, someone else is. If you haven't applied for a book award, why not give it a shot? And if you'd like some help identifying awards to apply for, we can help. We offer 1-hour marketing strategy sessions where we could pull together a strategy around awards and help you make that happen. Visit empowerprgroup.com/marketing strategy session to learn more and snatch a time to chat. I'd love to connect. All right, empowered author, you know the drill. I'm a believer that empowered people empower people. I've empowered you. Now it is your turn to empower others.